Alright, in this video, I want to talk about what I have drawn over here. What I have here is a list of some unclean animals that I want to learn from here. We have a snake, we got a crab, we got a scorpion, a dog, and a pig that doesn't really show up. I can see that the color contrast doesn't really show up, but there's a pig right there. Barely see it, but it's there. And these represent different types of people, right? Because we're all like this, like a mixture of these things, until we are born again, and then we start to change. And that's the thing. Once you're born again, there should be a change. Not that there's guarantee something, but there's gonna be something there. Like if the person doesn't even change at all, like there's nothing, you're gonna think, well, do they truly believe at all? I mean, maybe they do. I can't say they don't believe because I don't know their heart, but if I'm gonna look at their lives, I'm not gonna believe they're changed if they still act like a snake, they act like a scorpion, they act like a pig, they act like a dog, they act like a crab. Do they really believe? Maybe, right? Because, you know, we're not perfect, and sometimes people change slower than others, and there's late bloomers, right? You know, a bunch of seed might get planted in the morning. Some starts to sprout up right up off the bat. Some won't sprout until the afternoon. Some start to sprout at the evening. Some strange flowers don't blossom until it's nighttime, like on a full moon, right? So, people are different, and you got to understand that. But at the same time, you cannot enable these kind of behaviors. And that's what I want to get into right here. Now, the first one we have here is a snake. A lot of people act like snakes, and you can tell from this right here. It's the way they talk. They talk with a forked tongue. In other words, what they say doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. They're basically liars, right? So they'll tell one person a certain thing, but they'll tell somebody else something else. Or they will say, hey, you can't do that, and then they do it themselves. Right? They do something to you, and they think you should just accept it, but you do the same thing to them, and they get upset when you just did what they did to you. Right? They're forked tongue, they contradict. Right? Very narcissistic. You know, lies, and they basically make up reality. They don't really agree with the way things are because they don't like the way the world is. They don't like themselves. But instead of accepting this and truly coming to God, they try to just drown it all out and make up reality where they are a good person and they don't need to change. Right? Things are good the way they are, and they're the best. You see, they live in this contradiction where they really know that things are shit, but they also want to pretend they're good. Right? It's very weird. You'll have to actually engage with these people to really see this actually play out. Sometimes you may have been like this yourself, because this kind of behavior, especially if it comes from parents and siblings or friends you hang out with too much, it rubs off, and you'll start to act that way. Right? Now, crabs, what's an interesting behavior from crabs is, one, they eat the fecal matter from the bottom of the sea, right? So they bring in a lot of shit, and they will eat that up. So you can take that to be gullible, right? We'll put that little symbol here where it looks like a snake, but this is a turd here. They will eat this up, you know, because if there's anything that they think sounds cool, especially if it's like flattering, right? Oh, you're a great person, even though they just did something horrible. They'll eat that up, right? So they'll eat up like the lies from a snake, because that's what they do. They eat the fecal matter, right? So when this snake is regurgitating this crap, the crab will eat that up. But another interesting thing about crabs is when some of these crabs, want to change. And this symbolized by when you catch a bunch of crabs, you got them in the bucket. If there's a crab that's starting to get out of the bucket, the other crabs will pull it back in. So they won't let the other crabs like grow and evolve and change. Like, no, you're stuck here with me. So if they're all in the bucket, they'll be like, no, you're staying in the bucket with us. So if one of them gets the idea of trying to get out, and they're gonna get out, they all grab them, pull them back in. So that's like what you see with a lot of families and friends, different social circles, is when one of them starts to realize, hey, we're kind of toxic. And then nobody really wants to change. They don't care. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to get out of this. They try to pull them back in. Hey, remember the good times, right? You remember this? Or maybe they blackmail them in a way, emotionally, saying, hey, you're going to leave me alone. You're going to abandon your friends, your family, right? Guilt tripping them kind of thing. Or blackmailing them in a way of like, hey, remember when you did this and all that, and we stuck by you and all that, right? Trying to, again, more of a guilt trip kind of thing. You're trying to keep them in the bucket with them. But if they do get out of the bucket, it's usually after they lost a leg or two or something, because the other crowds are grabbing on, trying to pull them in. And this is symbolized by one of these people who are leaving one of these toxic circles. The other ones will then turn on them and usually try to misrepresent them to other people, trying to make it act as though they are some evil person, because they're kind of afraid to be exposed for the way they are, and they think that the crab that's leaving is going to expose them when they're just going to go on with their life. So they start spreading rumors and all this stuff, trying to destroy the character of the one that left. So when you do leave these circles, a lot of times you leave injured. Like if a crab does get out of the bucket, it's usually been attacked quite a bit by the other ones pulling you down, that it's lost some limbs or something, right? Now, scorpions, these are vicious creatures, and they don't really have family or friends because they eat each other. They feed off of one another. They'll eat their own children, they'll eat their own other scorpions. They don't have family or friends. And these are people who, when we see them, they actually have family and friends, but they're there to be fed off of, because that's what scorpions do. They grab a hold of something, stick it with its poison, feed off of it. And people do this to their family and friends all the time, right? They feed off of their attention, off of the drama they cause among family and friends, and all the negative stuff they bring about. And they try to... Sorry, my mustache is trying to grow into my mouth here. I gotta train it better. But anyway, they will cause this kind of drama or triangulation. Like they try to pit their children against one another, or their brothers and sisters against one another. Or they try to manipulate, and they feed off the negative energy. They enjoy that for some reason. There's something that they get off of when it comes to that. And so you can see that some people might have all of these characteristics, right? And where we have a dog, I like to use this as a depiction. I lost my cursor. There it is. A dog has no morals. And you may be thinking, what am I talking about here? Well, you see, dogs, they will do what is good if you give them a reward, right? You teach them to do the right thing. Because you give them a treat, they'll do it. And you can train them to do the good thing because they know, hey, I get a treat for doing these things. They don't care that it's right, because you can train them to do something wrong. And if you give them a treat for, let's say, attacking elderly and children, they'll do it because they know they'll get a treat for doing it. They don't care that it's wrong, right? If you give them a treat, they'll do it. So they may do good things, thinking... And you think these are good people, but they're not. They're doing it because they want your vote in politics. They want you to think they're a good person. They like the people giving them compliments, right? And they think they'll get a reward. And if they don't get a reward for doing the good thing, like if they do something for you and you're busy and you didn't say thank you, they're pissed off. Like, you, what? They're all like offended. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, wasn't thinking. You were helping me in the middle of something, and I was so caught up in what I was doing, I forgot to say thank you. Why are you so upset? Is it really that big of a deal? I mean, if you're truly a good person, you're doing it because you're trying to help. You're not doing it to get a thank you out of it, right? Just something like small like that will irritate them, right? And then the opposite is true as well. When it comes to punishment, they're not doing these wrong things because they don't want to get punished, right? Like the dog would feel fine pooping in the house, but since he'll get punished by getting scolded or the newspaper to the nose or whatever it is that you do with your dog, they won't do it because they don't want to get punished. Not because they think it's wrong and evil and disgusting. It's they're not going to do it because they don't want to get punished. So a lot of these people who are not going out doing a lot of these things that people go do, right? Going out and partying and living, just seeking their own pleasure and all this, doing all these things. They're not doing this because they're actually good and they want to be good people. They just want people to think of them highly, right? With some kind of respect and dignity. It's still selfish. There's no true morals here whatsoever. But it appears to be that way. Like a well-trained dog looks like it's a good person, right? It wants to help out. It doesn't do the wrong thing. It listens and all this stuff. You think, this is a good, smart dog. No, the dog is just sitting there going, well, if I do these things, I get a treat. Told I'm a good dog. If I do these things that I really want to do, I get told I'm a bad dog and I get punished. All right, I got to control myself. It's trying to not do what it normally would do because of punishment and reward. And that's how a lot of these people are. And a lot of this, you could say is just like a legalist. Legalists are dogs, right? They're trying to keep the law and do all these right things, which is all good, right? We all should do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. But their motivation is to get rewarded for it and not to get punished. They're dogs, and nothing more than a dog. And a pig, well, a pig's similar to a dog. Not that you're going to train it like a dog, but it's also similar to a crab. And not that they're the same, because a pig will eat just about anything. Again, you could put here, like, gullible, because they will eat up everything. And of course, since they eat up everything, like a crab, it's eating the fecal matter off of the seafloor. That can actually affect you if you eat it. A lot of people will eat it anyway. Cook it well through, it should be fine. But you're eating an animal that eats fecal matter. And when you think about it, it's kind of gross, right? And I'm not going to lie, crab is delicious. And that just shows how just degraded the human nature is, right? But this thing eats crap, and I think it tastes good. And it disgusts me that I like that. But it is what it is, right? But I lost my cursor again. With the pig is similar. Well, I don't know if it'll eat crap. Maybe it would. But it eats just about anything you give it. Right? It'll eat even people. If you chop up another pig, it will end up eating that. You mix it in with stuff, it's not picky, right? And since it eats up garbage, which we'll put here like false doctrine, we'll just put a big F here, they'll eat all that stuff up. They don't care where it comes from, right? This is somebody that would be like, well, we're all Christians, so they'll take in Catholic stuff, Orthodox stuff, Mormon stuff, Jehovah's Witness stuff, Seventh-day Adventist stuff, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, all these different groups, and they just act like it's one, right? They build like a Frankenstein kind of belief. They put it all together, and since they eat all this stuff, they eat whatever from anybody. They'll even bring in Muslim stuff, Hindu stuff, Buddhist stuff, right? They just bring it all together. They become toxic themselves because they're just eating toxins like the crab. That if you were to partake of this thing it's diseased. Right? There's a lot of things you can get ill from dealing with pigs, especially if you eat them. That's why you got to make sure you cook meat coming from a pig very well, because there's all kinds of things that you could end up catching from a pig, different kinds of parasites and all that kind of stuff. That's why it's considered an unclean animal. Like these kind of animals you generally wouldn't eat, except for the time we're in. We tend to take good care in the way we prepare food, but even then it's probably not a good thing to be eating these things. But if you gotta eat and this is the only thing you got, just make sure you really take care of the way you cook it and clean it up and everything. That's just more of a side note there. But you can see how these personalities are, that some people are a lot like all of these. And there's different things they do to kind of deceive themselves and deceive others. I had a friend I grew up with that was kind of on my mind a little bit, because I recently somewhat connected back with him on Facebook, and he's still an atheist. And I remember growing up with him, we would do all kinds of things together. We were always playing some football, wrestling, going out to the river to swim, going out into the woods, into the mountains there to go hiking around, riding the bikes around in the mud and all that. We were very active, doing all kinds of things. And then there's one day he just kind of stopped doing these things. And then he'd go to his house and check on him why he's not with his brother and with us, all hanging out. And he started smoking pot. And now he's too cool. And he just stays inside all of the time. He got access to the internet, and he was just on the internet listening to music, smoking pot, and getting into chats. This is in the 90s, when the internet was just starting to come around. And I was like, man, well, you're just going and doing this. And I was noticed a change in him where he wasn't motivated, didn't care about doing anything, and he was doing what I was saying these things here do, right? Where he was justifying him not taking care of himself because he started to put on a lot of weight, because we were all super active. But then he just, sitting on the computer, listening to music, smoking pot, he started to get big. And this is back in the day when there wasn't a lot of fat people, right? And if you were just a little big, you were considered fat. Like today, somebody who's just a little chunky, you just think, oh yeah, that's normal. But back then, we would make fun of everybody for being fat if you had some extra pounds on you, even if it's not a big deal. So times have changed quite a bit. And not only that, he started to become very selfish. Didn't care about anybody else. And what anybody else wanted to do, he wanted everybody to do what he wanted to do. So you see that snake, that contradiction, don't care about you. Yeah, I can do this, you can't, right? It's about what I want to do, not what you want to do. You don't matter. And then he started eating up all the stuff off the internet, and dove into atheism, right? All the stuff back then, a lot of stuff making fun of Christians and all that. He got into all that and stayed in it, right? So he's like a crab and a pig, just eating that stuff up. And he started to feed off of his family and friends, where instead of him trying to change and come off of that stuff, he tried to get us to all smoke with him. And at first I was not having any part of that, but my life kind of fell apart. I'm not going to get into that here. When I was a teenager there, things just exploded, and I just didn't care anymore. And I started to smoke with him, and I noticed a change in me. You don't pay attention, the clouded mind, and you start accepting some ideas and doing some things you normally wouldn't do, because it messes with you, it changes you. And I was noticing this happen to him, and like I was saying, feeding off of family and friends, it wasn't just trying to get us to follow him into his misery and self-woe, but he would try to pit us against one another now and then for his amusement, right? Like, oh, JD said this and this and that, try to get people to get in arguments, all this. Try to do these little things, like, oh, he thinks he's better than you at this game or at this sport or whatever, trying to get you to butt heads and to compete one against one another so that he can have entertainment while he's sitting there high. And I have a couple times went back and tried to look at some movies and shows I thought were funny when I was younger, that I thought was hilarious when I was high. And they were stupid. I was checking these things out and I was like, why did I think this was so hilarious? And I was like, this is messed up. And then I see some of these movies that are newer and I'm like, this is stupid. And I was like, you have to be high to think this is funny. If you're high, it does something with your mind where these idiotic things you find to be hilarious. Like, it does something to you where it really does dumb you down. And come to find out, marijuana does a lot of things to you. Especially with the males, it actually lowers your testosterone and raises your estrogen. And then sometimes with not everybody who's on pot, they'll start putting on some weight. The more fat you have on you, the more estrogen you'll end up producing, and less testosterone you'll end up producing. Especially you growing up as a male, there, it has an effect on you. And it explains why a lot of them are very feminine, very soft, not just physically but mentally, where they don't have any kind of ambition or drive and just complain. It changes them and makes them more like a woman. Not that that makes them evil or something, but it makes them very feminine. I'm not going to lie. You can see this effect where, like, my friend, when we were growing up, we ended up standing up against bullies who would end up messing with with us or his younger brother and what have you, and we were always doing sports and stuff like that, and we would get into fights at school or out of school. But then when he started doing the pot, all of a sudden he became very soft and avoided all that stuff, and acting again this haughtiness as if he was above all these things. And then, of course, going into that mindset, he had that mentality of a dog, where he would go and steal from the corner store. I ended up doing the same thing. And since you get rewarded for it, we would do it. And since we had the morality of a dog, and I think pot helped with that, where you're just, who cares? Right? If I get what I want out of it, I get some kind of pleasure, do as you wilt kind of attitude. That's the mentality of a dog. We did things because we got rewarded for it. And these other things that might have been right, why do it if there's no actual benefit for us? Right? It's very... Where's my cursor again? It's very... Let's just put selfish. Right? Don't care about anybody else unless it benefits us. Right? You do something for others to make yourself look good, to get other people to think you're good, to, kind of earn their trust so that maybe you can end up using them in the future. Right? And of course, as a pig, you eat up everything. Where, especially when you're high, you entertain all kinds of stupid things. So when you listen to this music and watch these TV shows and these movies and you hear these people out and you go and you read this stuff and talk to people about different religions, you don't really think it through. You're just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of cool. Let's do these chakra things and the yoga and go to the mosque and all this stuff and read the Quran, and maybe you get into all this stuff. Or atheism is the dumbest thing ever. Like, life only comes from something alive, and consciousness only comes from something conscious, but you think you evolved from rain on a rock that eventually created some kind of goop, and life just came out of nothing. It was not alive, not conscious. All of a sudden, poof, it came in. Right? You just entertain these stupid ideas that make no sense. There's no real reason or logic to it. But you buy into all this stuff because getting into this kind of thing, and it's not just with pot, Pot just is the big one that really clouds the mind and really does something like hypnotizes to get you to accept these kind of ideas. And not only that, the whole thing, like I was saying about feeding off of family and friends, when you get other people to get high with you, it clouds their mind so that they don't clearly see you for what you are, to see how you are being a snake, a crab, a scorpion, a pig, and a dog here. And they don't call you out. And you start acting like them so that if you ever start to see that and call it out, they'll be like, you're the same way. You're just like me. Right? And they're a crab that pulled you into their bucket and they don't want to let you get out now. But, other things will have the same effect, such as, just peer pressure, pressure from family and friends. It doesn't have to deal with using a drug, but that helps with all that. Alcohol can be similar, but it's not as long-lasting. Like the pot can really sink in ideas that affect you. While when you're drunk, you may get some silly things in your head while you're drinking, but you don't quite remember it. And when you sober up, it has no effect on you. Like, I would never do that again unless you get drunk, right? You block that stuff out, you move on. But while you're drunk, your ambitions can be lowered, and that's why a lot of people, they'll do that to get to sleep with somebody, right? Get them drunk and having a good time, and they kind of just let go and go along with things that they normally wouldn't do. But you see these people, they try to get that kind of thing because they have the morality of a dog. Well, yeah, if I can get this girl, sometimes guy, drunk or high, maybe I can get them to take their clothes off with me, right? And you don't care if they really like you or not. You just want to do what you want to do with them for your own personal pleasure, right? Again, with this selfishness, not caring about others and how that it's going to affect them in their lives. It's about you getting what you want. You don't care about anybody else. You're an animal, and a filthy, unclean animal at that. And these, they get rewarded for that, right? They get their dopamine fix, they get what they wanted, so of course they're going to do the wrong thing because they get what they want out of it. And if they're doing the right thing, trying to be a decent person, and they're like, well, this gal or this guy doesn't like me, doesn't want to be with me, they can't just accept that and be like, well, that's just how it is. The right thing to do is to let it go and realize you're not going to be with them, right? But that's not what they want. That hurts. And the world revolves around them, right? It's all selfish. Who cares about anybody else? I didn't get what I want. That's not fair. Well, yes it is. Yes it is. And there's somebody else in your life that is meant for you, right? Or maybe you're meant to just walk with God, right? Let it go. But I wanted to make this video just to talk about this because we lack discernment at times, right? Because family, friends, schoolmates, co-workers, we're just trying to go through our day. We're not really dissecting how people are and their motivations and stuff, but spiritually, there's a spiritual battle going on. And if somebody truly believes and they're born again, they are not filled with the spirit of these kind of filthy animals. They're not going to act like that. They may have acted like that and they start to struggle with changing. But if they still act like this and they're not convicted about it, they don't care, and they don't make any effort to change, well, it's kind of hard to believe that they truly have believed and received the Holy Spirit here, and then that they're filled with God, right? Especially when they say they believe and they're not getting into the Bible. Because this is where you're going to receive the Holy Spirit. The Word of God is spirit and is life. It's living. You want to be filled with the Holy Spirit, you got to be filled with the Bible. And if you speak English, you're going to have to use the KJV. You can use other versions to help you understand the Old English until you get used to it, kind of thing. But that's where you're going to have to go. if you're speaking English anyway, to get the Word of God in our language, to have the Holy Spirit. And as that fills you, these things, you start to get convicted of how you act like that. That other spirit starts to leave as God's Spirit fills you. It's like He comes in and He conquers your inner world. And He starts tearing down all your self-righteous towers of Babylon there. He starts breaking down all the confusion, breaks down your strongholds, destroys your idols, your self-worship and your selfishness. He starts tearing it all down and rebuilding. And sometimes it's a brick by brick, so it's like a slow process. Sometimes it's faster with others. But again, if they're acting like the spirit of the enemy, and then they're encouraging other people to act like the spirit of the enemy, and they preach a lot of things, like they say they believe, but they're often questioning and often trying to plant seeds of, doubt. Now, is that D-U-O? For some reason, looking at this, I think I spelled that wrong, but I've tried to spell doubt. I'm just stupid. If they're trying to plant the seeds of doubt, like always questioning, like, isn't this like this possibility, this right? And, I don't know if I'm truly saved or this person's not saved. Like sometimes it has to do with, they're homosexual. Or they're a Satanist. Well, didn't God die for them? Doesn't He love them? And they act as though they've gone too far. It's like, no, you've gone too far, but God saved you. Just because they appear to have gone further than you, they're just like you, a sinner. And you thinking you're above them shows, that spirit. Because this Spirit of God here doesn't exalt you. It humbles you and puts you in your place. But this spirit, like an animal wants to dominate and exalt itself above others, to be the alpha. I'm the alpha here. I'm top dog. I'm the best. They're very competitive, always trying to beat you in something because it exalts them. I can beat you in this game. I can beat you in this sport. I can beat you in these things because it's not just a friendly competition like, hey, let's see who can do this and we'll encourage one another to get better. That's a healthy competition because it doesn't matter if you lose. You're just trying to get better and help each other get better. But these people, they're not trying to help you get better. They're trying to hinder you so they can be better and puff themselves up because they're animals. Animals are like that. They want to be above one another because then they have access to what they want. Right? That's not the Spirit of God there. So these people who claim to believe and that they're born again, but they act like they're from a completely different spirit over here. Yeah, maybe they're slow. Maybe they're newborns. It's going to take them a while to grow. But you got to wonder. And you got to watch out for these people. Like if somebody's a newborn, and let's say they believe they're saved, but they act like this, you shouldn't be following them. Be like, well, they claim to believe in all this. It's fine to, be around all this. You got to realize this isn't right, and you can't enable it. Right? We got to deal with this with wisdom, but also with grace, right? Because you can't force these people to change. All you can do is talk about it like I'm doing here, and hopefully it lets people to see the truth and convicts them a bit. And you pray for them, because a lot of these people, like I noticed with my friend growing up with him, and talking to him now, it was a bit strange. Because he added me and he was like, I don't mind being friends and all that, and you're still into your God thing, but as long as you don't push it on me and all this. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I wasn't going to push it on you. You made it clear for years that you've made your choice, and I respect your choice. I've talked to you enough about it. You're set in your ways, and that's that. I'm fine with that. On my page, I'm still going to do my normal preaching and reaching out. And there was a couple things where he commented on the stuff, and he was pushing his belief. He's like, this is weird. I'm respecting your belief, but here you are coming to me trying to push your belief. But I'm pretty sure you're going to say that I'm trying to push it on you. Right? But it's like, I'm not coming to you and pushing it on you. If you're coming to me, pushing your belief onto me. But, yeah. There's nothing I can do to reach him. I can't keep talking to him and keep trying to shame or something, right? If he talks to me and asks me questions or calls me out on something, I can talk to him about it. But I'm not going to go to him because I know he doesn't care. He just wants attention. He's a dog, a pig. He wants to roll in the mud. And he wants me to roll in the mud with him because he just wants attention. So with some of these people, you can't call them out for their shit. You can just talk about how these kind of things are wrong. And the people who follow after them, they don't care that they're wrong. Because they share of that spirit. And they're not convicted about it, they're not convicted. What can you do? Like I was saying, the wisdom and grace there. You can't sit there and go, hey, you're acting like this, change. Because they can't and they don't really want to anyway. Right? You just gotta do your best to love them. In spite of themselves. Like, yeah, you're a snake. I'm going to be watching out so you don't bite me. Or, like a scorpion, you don't sting me. But, I try, God said to love your enemies. Bless those that curse you. So, I do my best to try to be here and help you out. But, I'm not going to trust you. I don't quite believe you because snakes and scorpions, they're not trustworthy. And they'll kill you as soon as you turn your back. Right? So, I guess I've made the point and I've gone over it a few times, explained it quite a bit. You probably haven't wanted to watch all the way through here. So, I'm done here. Thanks for watching. Take care and please support with your prayers. Just take a moment to pray that God keeps you going, keeps this ministry going, that it's supported. You can help out if you want by commenting. That helps. Interacting with the comment section helps. Giving a thumbs up, subscribing, sharing the video. Those all help. And if you want and you're able to, you see that I'm fighting that good fight to win over hearts and minds of people in this spiritual fight, to win souls. That's done with words, not with fisticuffs. You can support financially with some different ways in the links below in the description box. So with all that being said, thanks again for watching. Take care and stay tuned for the next one.